Hello, this is Anastasia from Anyaverse, and I'm back again for some more fun. First off, I'd like to thank you guys for watching my first video. If you were my friends, and you're being good supportive friends, and if you were not my friends, I'm honestly amazed that you found my channel. This is very new, and I'm still learning, so it was really exciting, but also both nerve-wracking to see that it had 300 views, and I was like, I consider myself a popular person, but I'm not sure that I'm that popular. So, if you guys were new and didn't know me at all, thank you so much for the watch, the like, subscribe, all the things that you might have done. I'm going to be clearly building this channel from scratch. I'm not as technologically inclined as I would like to be, so I will be learning along the way. I was told that the most important thing was to just get the videos out there. But if you guys have any critiques for me, and I will try to improve them as I go along. I will also mention the hair. Yes, I know it's different from my first video. I have filmed the second video I don't know how many times, over and over and over again. Part of my problem is I mess up a line and I'm like, oh, needs to be restarted. Or when I finally decide on something, I go to edit it and I'm like, oh, that was cringy now. Can't do it, needs to be redone all over again. Which is why it has taken me so long to make a second video. So as I brace myself to make this second video, please just bear with me. This is actually less time than starting the channel. I think I've been contemplating this channel for like 10 years. So 2 or 3 weeks is nothing. But yes, to move on, because I know I don't have a lot of time. I have like 15 minutes because I'm not like a verified YouTube user, and they only allow 15-minute videos, and I could talk for hours, so I gotta move. So I'm gonna move. I am gonna talk about Arcane. That's what it says in the title. So everybody's talking about Arcane. It's a great series. Why would you not talk about Arcane, right? So I'm gonna talk about Arcane. To keep it short, I'm gonna try to just talk about my favorite points. And if you guys have any of your favorites that I didn't talk about, comment below. Or if you want to add to what I already said, comment below also. I think it would be great to read everybody's discussions, everybody's thoughts. I've been obsessed with reading like the Reddit posts, the Facebook things, all the things, the fan art. Oh my gosh, I love the fan art. I'm here for the fan art. We're all here for the fan art. Especially Echo Powder / Jinx fan art. Yes, 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 yes. I'm so here for it. I'm so happy. Okay, but moving on. I am one of those people who I have to watch the previous seasons before watching the newest season that's coming out of a TV show, which is why it might have taken me a little bit longer to watch the whole series. So yeah, and it took me longer to rewatch it than it normally would because Arcane Season 1 is very tragic. And like knowing what's gonna happen is so worse. I had to like watch it knowing that Powder was going to accidentally kill like her whole family except for Vi, and I was like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I was like, no, I need to pause. So I'd pause and I'd be like, I need a moment. And then I would continue on and I'd be like, nope, pause again. I need another moment. Okay, so yeah, but that it took me a little bit, but I made it, and I'm glad I did, because there were some things that I kind of forgot about or I maybe missed the first time around, so it was really good that I got to go back through it. But moving on to mostly the second season, because I think I enjoyed the second season a lot more than I enjoyed the first season, maybe because it had an overall happy-ish ending, so I was able to feel happy and we didn't just leave on Jinx throwing a bomb at a whole bunch of people, you know? So that might play a little bit into it. But to talk about my all-time favorite scene in Season 2, which is what I really wanted to talk about, honestly. This whole video was for like 2 minutes of discussion. My absolute favorite scene in the second season was when Vi and Jinx fight it out, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. The art style was amazing, of course, because the art style has always been amazing, right? And the characters were amazing, all the storyline was amazing, but like more so like the art of the fight scene was fantastic. Oh my gosh, I loved it. I loved all the colors that were used. I loved the like the fluidity of the whole thing, right? It was amazing. It was absolutely fantastic. And then you also had Caitlyn and Savika fighting in the background. By the way, I love Savika. Love Savika too. She cool. But yes, so they're fighting, and then it's juxtaposed with Jace, Echo, and Heimerdinger finding out the truth of Hextech, and it's the dark truth of Hextech, and it's like, oh my gosh. oh my gosh. And everything's going back and forth between the things, and I love it with the music. That music is perfection. Oh my gosh, the music in Arcane 2 was just perfection. I have been listening to nothing but that soundtrack for like 2 or 3 weeks now. It's been fabulous and fantastic. It's so like diverse too, and I really love that we can have music associated with a TV show so that, you know, we get a different kind of vibe of the music than like music that's just for radio use. So, and that specific song Mine was blown. I love that scene so much. I rewatched it a whole bunch of times. So yes, I really loved it. Fantastic. Best scene I think I've seen in cinema in a long time. Or do we count TV shows as cinema? I don't even know. Either way, in a TV show production type thing in a long time. So very exciting. Love that scene. Best part for me anyways. But I also really liked that they went into the parallel universe and like time thing. You did have it seemed like two different parallel worlds, right? Where Echo and Heimerdinger go to one, which is a much happier one. And then you have Jace that goes to a different one. I also thought it was really interesting that they also kind of messed with the time with it, right? So you have Heimerdinger, who is a man he lives in the past, right? So he's like 300 something years old, and he's always comparing things to how it was in the past. And he shows up in the past in his parallel world. Then you have Echo. Echo is a man of the present. He's like, how do I fix things now? Things are happening now. What do I do to fix it now? And he shows up in like the present time period, like what would correlate presently in his parallel world, right? And then you have Jace. Jace is a man of the future. Like he's often advertised as the man of the future, and he ends up in a timeline that is in the future. It's a dark future that we don't want to achieve, but he ends up in the future. So I was like, oh, that's really neat that they all ended up in different times, and their characters kind of represented the time that they ended up in within those parallel worlds. Speaking of the parallel worlds, though, oh my gosh, was it so sad at the same time. Like, I don't care about Jace. But with Echo and Powder, I was like, no, this could have been. Why would you give me a romance that can't happen? I mean, I could pretend like it happens in that world, right? Because Echo still lives there, and so does Powder, and Powder's a little bit better. But you know, Echo of our world won't ever get to be with Powder. And then it was worse because he shows up to like his normal timeline, right, or his normal world, and he's like, oh my gosh, I have all these feelings for Powder, and then he sees Jinx trying to kill herself, and he's like, oh my gosh, my broken girlfriend is like trying to kill herself, and it's like, oh my god, I feel like that would have been very emotional. I'd be like, oh, there's a lot going on here. I'd be like, I need a moment. I got 4 seconds, but I need a whole minute at least, you know. To process everything. So I thought Echo was really cool, and I think that he's got a lot of emotional stability to just kind of bounce through everything the way that he does. So, but yes, it was really sad. I also was really sad that Heimerdinger died. Like, did he have to? The cute little fur ball. So mad, but it's fine. Whatever. People gotta die in the series to make you feel emotionally connected. Speaking of people who died, though, I did think that it was interesting. You know, Silco dies, right? So, but everybody loves Silco and Jinx dynamic. You know, he does seem like a cute dynamic. I do love all the little fan art that has, you know, Jinx trying, doing like the most reckless thing, and Silco being like, oh my gosh, that's great, sweetie. And all the little just father-daughter fan art. I love it. I'm here for it. But also at the same time, I think that the relationship was really messed up. Like, I think that Silco loved her. He definitely loved her, and he wanted her to grow up safely and soundly. However, I don't think he was there to help her much mentally, you know? He was like, hey, I want you to be as messed up as I am. I want you to be resentful. I want you to be hateful. And I think he didn't mind the crazy because he also thought that he was kind of unhinged too. So as long as she was unhinged and he was unhinged, then they were unhinged together and it was fine. So I don't think that, you know, it was the best of relationships. I think he was certainly supportive, but I don't think that he was supportive in the best ways. I feel like you can see that more because after Silco dies, Jinx calms down a lot. Like, she isn't hearing the voices as much, if at all. I can't remember. And then she also is like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna sit alone by myself and not cause any more trouble because she's like, I've done enough. Right? And it's the first time where she just kind of sits there by herself and she just doesn't do anything. So I do think that it kind of shows that maybe he wasn't the best influence on her life. But he does make a cute dad. You know, that whole tough guy versus soft dad vibes. I did like that. So, yeah. And then there's Isha, which of course you gotta talk about Isha. I feel like everybody talked about Isha. Isha seemed to be the most interesting character. And I did think that it was interesting that she was a non-verbal character. I think I had originally thought of her as a mute character, but I did see some suggestions that maybe she was deaf. And I think the reason why I thought she was mute is even though she makes sounds, so she does make grunting noises and stuff, and I was like, oh, maybe she's not mute, but my actual first thought was more of a psychological event, like something happened to traumatize her and she couldn't talk anymore from that. So I thought it was more psychological as opposed to like a physical problem. But I did see a couple of posts that pointed to her actions, like, you know, she seems to be facing people when they talk, so maybe she can't hear them. So she's trying to see when they're talking and read their lips and stuff like that. So I guess it could go either way. I think maybe that they were trying to go that she's deaf. But yeah, so I did think that it was interesting, though, that she's a non-verbal character and how she interplays that with Jinx. Because I think it was actually really good for Jinx that she had a character that didn't talk to her. Because she could finally be kind of like alone with herself. Which Isha also is a representation of Jinx's self, right? Like, Isha wants to be like Jinx. She dyes her hair blue. She makes little contraptions just like Jinx. She ends up dressing up like Jinx, right? So she very much idolizes Jinx, and I think it gives Jinx a moment to view herself and who she wants to be, right? And I think that that's how Isha really helps Jinx, is that she's like, hey, this is who I see you as, this is who you are, and this is who you can be, kind of thing. So I did think that she was a cool character for that. Other things I wanted to talk about were, this is not really a scene, but so, you know, I'm one of those people that I look a lot of fan art, and I look at like a lot of Pinterest posts, Facebook posts about series, and I kept seeing all these posts for Jace and Victor, and at first I was like, I'm not really seeing it. But then as season 2 progressed, I was like, oh, I get it, I really do. And like by the end, like when they're both in their little ethereal, I don't think that's the word I'm looking for. Either way, their little phantasmal bodies. And I was like, okay, well, whatever that is. When they're both like that, and like Jace goes over there and he's like, hey, I really thought he was gonna kiss Victor, and then it didn't happen, and I was like, oh, I guess, you know, I've been influenced. I really thought that they were gonna kiss, and then they didn't, and I was like, interesting. But yeah, moving on from that was just a little tidbit there. There's also Mel in that whole little triangle relationship, because I have seen like a lot of posts about, you know, Jace being with Mel and then Jace being with Victor, but then also like all three of them together, and I think that it can work, kind of all three of them together. So I think that that's a cool idea too. That's one of the things that I love about shipping, is like you can make whatever ships you want, and then you can add people to them too, or take away people. It's cool. I love the ship first, whatever you want to call it. But speaking of Mel, I thought that the coolest thing was not her whole transformation, though. Oh my gosh, did she look gorgeous? Yes, she did. She looked super gorgeous, super powerful, loved it. No, my favorite thing, like the favorite scene with her, was that she, you know, when her mom is fighting, and then she has to fight her mom, and then she ends up sacrificing her mom in order to kill off, what is it, Black Rose? Yeah. And I was like, huh. Wow. And her mom's like, you are the wolf. So she was very proud of it. But I was like, that is like, ooh, that's a big move right there. But I did think that it showed off her character, right? So she is a character who often mentions the last resort, right? So she's like, oh, we shouldn't build weapons unless we absolutely have to. We shouldn't attack them unless we absolutely have to. And so I think that it was very interesting that at the end, you finally see her double down and be like, this is what we have to do. Like, it's come to this. Like, there's no going back. This is the last resort because this is the last moment. And so I thought it was cool to actually see her use her last resort. She's not a person who will run away from it. She's just a person who knows that she's like, hey, we can't just do things out of anger. We gotta wait. We gotta see. And then she will act if she has to. And she does. She sacrifices her own mom to defeat both her mom's army, but then also another evil. Because I'm not entirely sure why Black Rose is angry at Ambessa. It sounds like Ambessa, you know, had a good time and left with the baby. She didn't technically steal the baby. She didn't kidnap the baby. So I don't understand why Black Rose seems so upset by this, other than Black Rose wanted Mel's power. In which case, I don't think that she was very justified in tormenting Ambessa's family. So there's that. That's my own little tidbit thing there. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up my favorite scenes in Arcane. I would love to talk about more, and so maybe I will make a second video, but that's all I got for now. Bye!